The way to do it is to have good testing also, right? Our QAs, basically the quality testers, they are more or less kind of that voice of reason. Sometimes when we kind of get when you build a model, you kind of get lost in the weeds of the complexity. You get lost into maybe the data and everything. Someone should be there to kind of look at it and say that we are trying to achieve this, right? Is the model doing that? Is it doing in a reasonable manner, right? Is it um, are we kind of exploiting some sort of behavior in an unethical manner, right? These sort of things tend to come from somebody outside of the team, and that's something that can be easily added, right? At the same time, yeah, it should also be. I mean, from an ethics point of view, and even from, as you said, uh, like from a governance point of view, there are going to be laws which are going to come in at some point or the other. If you're ready for it, if you already have the masking procedures and everything in place, then something like GDPR coming in doesn't affect a lot of companies, right? Because if they are ready for it, then there's no problem. Otherwise, it kind of stalls up your work. It's going to be a loss. So you need to be future ready in that sense. With that, I mean, is the ideal thing, but yeah, there will always be some trade-off because that itself involves a lot of effort.
That was actually my next question with regulations such as GDPR. I've always heard two sides of the story where some data scientists are in favor of it and some are not because it restricts a lot of things that you can do. So talking about this policies, what are the practical implementations of those? How can it affect the practical implementation at your companies? And what would be alternate ideal policy?
GDPR by itself is actually a very well-designed policy as such because it sets you free. It sets data free, and that's good for everyone in a sense because now I can come out of the closet, right? I'm out of the open and I can have discussions with my stakeholders. It's positive overall in the long run because it sets you free. And you can imagine why that would be problematic for a lot of people. Well, having said that, I don't think it's going to really happen anytime soon, at least in India. Because who has the political will or professionalism to do it? It's not a priority for anyone at all.
And that not happen, how much that affects the future of AI Indian ecosystem?
So,
Is there some policies in place?
yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, it's very, as you said, it's very hard to say what can happen, right, until it's already happened. I mean, when you look at the other analysis, for example, right, it was a training data set already, and that's somebody's. It should be kind of that should not be out of the way. It's what, like at least from an ethical point of view, we can say that. But yeah, I feel like India is not prioritizing that as of now. So in the Indian scenario, it's entirely up to the developers and entirely up to the team to kind of take notice of this. It's also up to the voters also. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel that as of now, India is taking some steps that actually go against this. Of late, we've actually opened up a lot of data. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the thoughts.
So I think on data privacy laws, if that's what your question is about. So from an Indian perspective, right now, yes, we don't have a lot of data privacy. Your information is leaking everywhere. So a lot of you have your mobile data on. Some of you have your mobile location on. You probably have your Zomato installed. So there are yeah, I mean, my voice is being identified in some of these phones right now, without being any sort of a voluntary opt-in, which is so probably some of you are going to get Converge AI recommendation in your LinkedIn now, okay, based on so your data is leaking everywhere. So And in the absence of these data protection laws, as of now, uh, it is you who have to be careful about it. So if you don't want your data to be out in the open, because we can't wait for a leak like Equifax, what happened in US, and we can't wait for those sort of data leaks to to sort of stop these practices. We have to be a bit proactive. So you know uh, stopping using certain networks, stopping, pausing certain apps when you are not using them, uh, just simply uh, denying locations forever. You don't need locations ever. I mean, you only need them if you need them, just just once in a while. Just have those sorts of settings. Everything is there in your phone. It was introduced for these purposes only, so that your data does not leak.
How
uh,
many of you believe that your phone or your smart TV or your Alexa is secretly listening to you? It may be, yeah, every time like my wife is telling me that TV is listening to me. TV is listening to us because we were talking about some brand of papa or something, and I saw an ad for it. It may be listening to you, that's not the point. It doesn't need to listen to you because you're giving it so much data protection. Why would I go to the trouble of putting in that system there which is sleeping over your voice, then decode your voice, and then figure out, okay, this person is acting on these people like that. You don't need to do that. So, of course, I find it very hard to convince people that these things may not actually be listening to you, but that's simply because I personally built systems where, given your history, I can tell if you are an American or an Indian, and if you are an American, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican. It's very easy. You are giving out a lot of data. Lot. Nobody needs to listen to your voice. That's no problem. This makes sense.
So, slight addition, they don't need to listen to your voice. Yes, your voice samples are there. They mostly listen to what ads you are listening on your TV. So if you see a Surf Excel ad and don't change the channel, that means that are you're more highly probable.
Give me a big hit. Thank you.
Yeah. Because again, but we won't.
There is a nice survey. You asked the question about how many of you think that data is being collected. My follow-up question would be that how many of you care that the data is being collected? Because with that data being collected, you're getting the recommendations which probably are more helpful to you. It's personalized for you. So, a question for all of you. How much do you care that the data is being collected by your TV? Is it a concern for you? Is it concern for you? Very less of a concern.
Voice is actually one of the safest data because it is so hard to parse. Voice is very hard.
It's expensive to pass it. You will suffer themselves.
Hype cycle.
software can be easily replaced and cloud, for example, the should store that cloud, so it's probably a good candidate for replacement. This is exactly the same thing that happened with APIs. And now we know that it can harm jobs at all, in fact, any jobs.
We can open the panel to the audience if any of you have any questions for the panel.
I think this is not a case of whether they should be, right? It's about if you make a law, the law should be executable. The network is out there, right? We have all the possible models. We have people who have access to it. Whatever you try, you can't stop people from doing it, right? So the problem here is not about whether or not the law should be there. It's about how do you design a law that is able to stop this in the first place. Maybe you can stop the commercialization of that, right? That's one thing that you can do. That it's expensive, so if there is a malicious deepfake, it's at least, I mean, no deepfake would be commercialized, which kind of takes down the ease of execution of such sort of a model. But I'm just kind of I'm just thinking out loud in that sense. I'm not very sure about it.
So, which is the most successful deepfake software ever? Adobe Photoshop. It has been there since a couple of decades. Yeah, and everybody's what we call passport size photo has gone through Adobe Photoshop. Everybody has had features refined, and I'm just talking about passport photos. It's the most useful deepfake app ever. Has there been ever anything to prevent it? Do you require a license to become a photographer? No. So it's like the cat is out of the bag way decades ago. It's not new. If it couldn't get stopped then, won't be able to, like, nobody would be able to stop it now.
Is it the fact that deepfakes are a completely different modality? Well, of course, you can have a photo
It's a
deepfake,
spectrum.
you can
It's a
have a video
spectrum.
deepfake, but doesn't that count for anything?
I think it's a spectrum. So on one end you have very minor things like removing a strand of hair from a existing photo, and on the other end you have all the extreme uses of deepfakes that we have seen. So where does it stop? And where do you draw the line between a genuine or a useful and a sane usage?
Like slanderous or
Yeah.
vulgar.
Karaoke.
Any other question? Okay, so in conclusion, what would be your tips for these future AI developers on being a responsible developer? What would be a few key points that they need to really start working on right from now and practice it to be a responsible developer?
Yeah, I feel like should have the attitude of when you're kind of rolling out a product or something, always think about from a retention point of view, building trust and keeping that trust, right? That is the only thing that will kind of help you convince your higher ups that let's not do this borderline unethical thing, right? Because trust is it is it is a value that can be monetized in a way, right? It is very critical to the success of your product as well. So keep that in mind. Try to be ethical as much as you can within your own function. That's my take.
Next time you submit an assignment where you report 99% accuracy, do mention the assumptions that you have taken care of and the biases that you have developed.
Right? Good company decisions. So that 5 years later when you come down to audit your own code, you'll be able to read them and figure out what they're wrong. Don't be like people like me who break their heads over who has written this piece of code. And then you start doing git blame and realize that it was you yourself. So write good git commitments.
So yeah, I think I agree with the panel here, and so I think the gist is, speak up to the stakeholders, keep a good history, and so Git history, but also your yeah. So some as a simple thing, keep an experiment log, some sort of a thing that what did
Maintaining
you
the lab journal is a lost art. Bring it back.
seriously.
This is critical, and this is what I meant. It's very easy to buy. CPU notebooks are free now for kind of now. So any problem, okay, 10 layer deep neural network, okay, does it work? Let me run 50 iterations, I go to sleep, wake up, something happens in application. No, don't do that. Maintain a proper lab journal in objective procedure, hypothesis, inference. This is important.
Maybe there's a product there.
There is one called Kepler, look it up.
I thank all the panelists for the insightful discussion. I hope the students follow what they have learned and be a responsible developer. And that was the conclusion for the panel, that it's just more about the developer who is using the techniques and strategies. Be responsible your own self, have transparent system, and then you can be a good developer in the AI ecosystem. Thank you, panelists, once again. I request Professor H.M. Thomas to give the token of gratitude to Mr. Piyush Gupta. I request Dr. Gopal Sapekar to give the token of gratitude to Mr. Harshit Sharma.